right. Now we're live.
Are we live?
Yeah. Just wave to people. Say I'm still getting it set up here.
We're still getting it set up here. Okay. I'm reading all the comments because we're using our phones.
Probably should speak up, Lou.
We chose the wrong person to do that.
But just try to talk louder.
Okay. We are using our phones, so I will be reading the comments off of my phone. Y'all like my awards? Dance competition.
Talk louder, Lou.
I
feel like you can talk louder.
I am talking
I can barely hear you. And I'm right next to you.
Barely hear me?
Yeah, and I'm right next to you.
I'm yelling. None of the comments are coming. Oh, look, there
Is it working?
It's really late.
What do you mean? Yeah, there's always a delay.
Hello? Yeah, there's always a delay. Okay, they can hear me. Okay, turning the volume off. How do you find the question, please?
The chat? I don't know. It should be in there someplace. I've never done it online. Where's my notes?
I don't know.
Sorry.
Oh, here we go. Let's chat. Okay. Hello from South Texas. Hi. Hi from Arizona. Maryland. Australia.
All right.
Okay.
All right, can I see what it looks like?
Yeah.
All right, can you guys hear us okay? You can't see what it says.
How are you from Dallas? Do you miss the question? Can you hear us okay? Barely.
Barely?
What if you like move it forward?
Just turn your volume up.
Turn it up. We can't talk that much louder because, you know, neighbors.
And the lives,
People are saying yes.
It's fine, okay, all right.
Yeah, just
If you
turn
can't
up your
hear us,
volume.
just turn up your volume a little bit.
That's a you problem. Sorry.
Okay, before you throw a bunch of questions out there, I've got a bunch of stuff that I need to answer right up front. So if you ask too many questions right away, I may not get back to them. So, hi, I hope you all are doing well. I hope you're having an enjoyable Memorial Day weekend if you're in the US, and a nice weekend if you're not in the US. Real quick, right at the beginning, I wanted to, oh, it's so weird not seeing, seeing what I'm seeing. I wanted to, there's been a whole, some very frequently asked questions after I showed the canopy last weekend or whenever that video was. So I wanted to go over those real quick, and then we'll get to some other questions that people have asked and that are coming in on the chat. So one of the most common questions was cost. What did it cost to do this? And the cost of one of these varies a lot depending on the size of the truck model, and how tall you go, and what various options you get with the doors and the windows, built-in features, lighting. There's lots and lots of options. This, on a mid-sized truck like this starts at around $2,000. The way mine is configured with these doors and windows and this height, it came out to $3,000. It could easily go up to $4,000 if you picked a few other options. So there's a lot of variables. It's very custom, but you can expect it to be a minimum of $2,000 and potentially up to $4,000, I guess. Weight. A lot of people expressed concern about weight and suspension. Are you going to upgrade your suspension for all of that weight? This is not heavy. It's made of aluminum, and it's not even very big because it's my truck is a very short bed. And on top of that, in order to put this on here, I had to take the tailgate off, which is a big, heavy chunk of metal. I had the back flip tonneau cover on here, which is also pretty heavy. That was an aluminum cover, and with a lot of sort of structure around it. And also there was what they call Utilitrack in the Nissan Frontier. They're these beefy metal, sort of like Unistrut, but they were mounted right on the side of the truck. I took those off as well. I think I took about 130 pounds off of the truck before this got put on. And the people at the Lear dealer estimate that this is somewhere between 200 and 250 pounds. So it's really not very heavy at all. And when you take into consideration what I took off of the truck, the net gain is minimal. Now obviously I'm building some stuff out into it, and when I go on a real trip, I'll be carrying several gallons of water, fuel, you know, I'll be adding some weight back into it. And some sort of suspension upgrade in the future will definitely happen at some point. I mean, the truck really, it needs a little bit of a lift, and we'll look at, you know, if springs need to be changed or anything like that. But I really want to see what this truck does stock. I want to see how it goes as is, so I can get a feel for what suspension upgrades I really need. I don't want to just jump into modifying it until I have a sense for what it needs, and then I can better appreciate the difference when I do spend the money on those mods. Hope that makes sense. How's that going? Everything going okay there?
Yeah,
Okay.
Mark,
Yeah. Okay. If it's going to be a little while before we get to questions, so you may want to. We'll try to get back through them, but I can't promise I'm going to get to the questions that you're typing in right now.
all the questions are about the trophy.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, they're like, where'd the trophy go?
Where'd the trophy go?
It fell.
Oh, it fell. Did you already tell them about the trophy?
I did not. We can
Okay.
do that later.
Okay. It's not because I'm the best YouTuber ever. It's certainly
I'm
not the best.
dancer ever.
Okay. So as I talked in the first video about the canopy, about the fact that this is a 5-foot bed, and that I've basically set up to sleep at a diagonal, a number of people talked about options to have a 6-foot bed along one side of the truck and have some sort of tent enclosure out the back. And there's a number of things on the market actually that exist, although I do think they rely on having a tailgate out there as well, which obviously don't have a tailgate. But in any case, the whole point here was to get away from any sort of fabric construction at all. I wanted a completely rigid, hard-sided, no fabric, nothing to get wet sort of setup. So I definitely won't be doing a sort of tent extension. I have some ideas for some ways that I can modify this to maybe make the sleeping arrangement a little better, but I am going to run it as it is for a while. I want to get a feel for what it's like using it just like this and see how well it works and just how much I need to change. My Gazelle tent. Everyone's asking me, what are you going to do with your Gazelle tent? Can I have your Gazelle tent? Can I buy your Gazelle tent? So no, the thing is, there's room in here for one person to sleep. If I go out camping with Lucy, or if I go out camping with Lucy and Colin, or go out camping with Colin, with either or both of the kids, I'm going to need an additional accommodations. And so that actually answers another question that comes up a lot, is if I go out with Lucy or go out with Colin, where will they sleep? And I suspect that if Lucy and I go out, Lucy will probably get the pallets, and I'll probably end up in the tent. But we'll just throw the tent in and a cot and an extra sleeping bag and set it up as we always do. Now the kids don't really go with me on major overlanding trips, so it's not such a big deal that I would have to set up a tent and deal with a tent. Plus there's extra hands to help get stuff set up and broken down. So when the kids are along, we will use one or both of the tents, and yeah, so that's what's happening with the Gazelle. All right. A lot of people concerned about rain noise. I have to admit, I did not see that coming. I grew up in Western Oregon, and there is like no sound more soothing to me than just rain pelting down on the roof. I love the sound of rain. It knocks me out. I wasn't even the least bit concerned. We did have a rainstorm sometime last week, and after seeing all those comments, I went out and sat in the canopy for a while with the rain coming down. And I mean, it makes noise, but to me it was a pleasant noise. Rain on the tent also made noise. The difference, in fact, and it was maybe less loud, but the rain noise on the tent was actually sort of more aggravating in a way, because in the back of my mind I knew the tent is getting wet, I'm gonna have to put it away wet, and I'm gonna have to set it back up in the garage and let it dry for a few days when I get home. Now the sound of the rain is just the sound of me not caring that it's raining. So the rain noise is not a huge concern. And the sort of secondary part of that is insulation. People talked about soundproof or sound deadening and insulation, both for temperature, condensation, and noise. And I think some sort of insulation is definitely going to be in the future. Again, sort of like the suspension, I don't want to jump right into that right away. There's a lot of different possible ways to go about insulating it, but if I insulate it now, I won't really know what difference the insulation makes, because I really haven't had a chance to get out and use this. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use it as it is through the summer, and I think right on into the fall and winter, and just get a feel for what it's like uninsulated, so that when I do decide on an insulation option, I can see and hear what kind of difference it makes, and tell you guys about the difference that the insulation makes. So insulation will certainly be coming at one point, but I'm not gonna rush into it. Interior build, I don't remember what that question is. So basically, I know that was just me that wanted to talk about that. What I'm doing here is I got the sort of the bed platform that you saw in the first video about it, and that was sort of a quick thrown together rough draft. And what I realized on that first camping trip was that some of the things that I thought I wanted to do with the inside of the back, I immediately realized on that first night out, no, that's not going to work. I need to do this differently. And so this whole build currently, and I've been adding kitchen stuff and clothing storage and a number of things so I can get it ready for some long trips. But this is really a rough draft. I'm throwing it together. It's not pretty. It's not anything that's going to be permanent, and it's almost entirely built using scraps of stuff that came out of the Forester or that I just had around. It's really cobbled together, but I'm just trying to get it to a point where it's functional enough that I can get out onto like a week-long overland trip, and then get a real feel for what it's like and what I would need to change, what I would want to be different about the way I've got it built out. So that's sort of what's going on with the build now, and I'm adding bits and pieces of things, and with the knowledge that, you know, in 6 months or, you know, maybe even next spring, I will look at reassessing everything and building something much nicer, more permanent, real drawers, you know, construction maybe out of aluminum instead of cheap lumber, stuff like that. So, oh, and so the last thing when it comes to the canopy is that I will be doing a detailed video just about the process of getting an aluminum commercial canopy, whether you're using it for camping or not. I'm going to look at the ordering process, the options, what my experience was like, and we'll closely look at some of the details of how this is built, and things that I think are great, things that I think are not so great, things that I think that they could have done better. So there will be a detailed review about the Lear DCC canopy, and that won't necessarily be camping specific, but we'll talk about what was involved with getting this put together and what it's like, how it's built. That was some of the information that I had a hard time finding myself before I dove into this, and so I will be getting that covered. Okay, how are we doing here? What time is it?
It's 2:17.
2:17, okay. I'm trying not to drag out the whole afternoon here for you guys. I do have some questions from some of my Patreon supporters who are unable to be here for the live stream, so I did want to make sure I got those answered. I do have a Patreon account, a Patreon page, if you did not know. You can help support the channel for as little as $3 a month, and there's some perks and benefits that come with that, including some exclusive content and videos that don't make it to the YouTube channel. So one of the Patreon questions, where will the kids sleep? I talked about that with the Gazelle tent. Jason asks, not Jason Primal Adores, Jason Grace says, advice from Lucie to make overlanding appealing to a 13-year-old, to his 13-year-old daughter. Because you've come to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you like about it?
Being on YouTube. Kidding.
Part of it, though, but that's part of it, isn't it?
It is part of it.
Social media.
Social media. I mean, I think since I grew up in Oregon, you know, nature was always like a big part of growing up. But wildlife is big. Like, seeing animals is fun.
Yeah, Lucie complains when we get out and we don't see animals.
I know. I always make jokes that I see more wild animals like possums and deer and raccoon in the streets of Eugene than actually in the wild, which is kind of ironic, but yeah. Maybe appealing. I think just finding cool spots, viewpoints are fun. Finding places that they would like to go as well, like working with them.
That's a good point. When I am planning a trip that might involve one of the kids, I do try to think about something that they'll find interesting or enjoy. Or, you know, being next to water is fun. It's nice to be next to a creek, especially in summer. You can get out and play in the water a little bit. And you know, just making it more about a family camping trip than what my typical overlanding desires would be to, you know, to cross a lot of country and see a lot of cool geology and history and stuff like that. So, you know, I think that sort of answers that. Sly Wilcox asked me, am I going to build the interior for quick removal so that I can actually use it as a truck? And that is definitely a goal. I used to drive pickup trucks for most of my adult life, actually, before the Forester. I always had pickup trucks as my daily, and I really missed having a truck. And definitely one of my ideas with this, getting a truck and a canopy to camp, was that I wanted to build this in a way that was very modular so it could come out and I could use it as a truck. Now, my rough draft build here is so sort of quickly cobbled together and bolted onto the truck that it's not very easy for it to come in and out at the moment. But that's definitely going to be a consideration for the final build once I decide how that's going to be configured. Is I would like to be able to easily move pieces of it out in order to make more cargo space. And even with this stuff in there, I mean, there's a lot of room in there, even with my build bolted in. I can put a lot of stuff in there. Now, I'm not going to haul a load of dirt, obviously, but I can haul stuff. You know, I can make a dump run. Alec Bird, am I seeing more people on public land? Yeah, I think so. I think after COVID hit and people were just doing less recreational stuff that were around other people, like going to football games, going bowling, going to the movies, just going to the mall, I think that a lot of people have pushed out into the wilderness. And it's true that I've much more frequently run into issues finding camping, even at times when I thought, oh, I'm out here early enough on a weekday, I'm going to have my pick of campsites, and it wasn't even summer, and already I was stunned by how many people I was seeing out in dispersed campsites. So I think there's definitely more of that. I suspect as we get back to normal, maybe people will feel less compelled to push out into the wilderness like that. I don't know. But yeah, I agree. Definitely more people out there. Sam Overlock, something that what's something that I couldn't do in the Forester, but I'm excited to try in the Frontier? That's a good question. It's funny because the Frontier is, it's 4-wheel drive. It's got low range. It can definitely climb some stuff that the Forester probably couldn't. And I think that's probably what I'm most looking forward to, is getting into a situation where, you know, I would have had to use like some sort of a momentum run up in the Subaru to try and get up something. Whereas here I feel like I can take a much more controlled approach, pick on the locker if I need to, and just have a nice controlled crawl up some sort of obstacle instead of, you know, having to sort of use the send it mentality that's necessary with a Subaru. Now, at the same time, the Subaru was such a little mountain goat, and it was so nimble and easy to dart around that when I've been out in the truck, I've actually felt less compelled by trying like challenging off-roady stuff. I really just kind of want to get where I want to go and enjoy being in wilderness. And you know, the Forester, maybe with the Forester, I always kind of felt like I had something to prove. It's like, I can get up that. But I think for the most part, just being able to take a more controlled approach to some obstacles instead of sending it with momentum. One more from Patreon, and that's Allison Fitzpatrick, who asked me to expand on why I chose a Frontier and why I chose an aluminum canopy. And I think I talked about that quite a bit in the original Frontier video, but the pickup truck format made a lot of sense to me because of the ability to build out the back here, and because there's so many ways that you can use a truck for camping that if I decide that this isn't ultimately right for me, I can get rid of the canopy and try something else and keep using the same vehicle. And a crew cab pickup truck gave me the ability to have comfortable space for me and both the kids, and still have this whole space that I could build out in the back. And Frontier, instead of, you know, a Tacoma, was not that there's anything at all wrong with Tacomas. They're great trucks and I love them. And I mean, if someone gave me one, I would drive it without hesitation. But you pay for Tacomas for the same year and number of miles that my Frontier has on it. A Tacoma would have cost $6,000 to $8,000 more. That's a big chunk of budget that I'm instead able to put towards, you know, making this thing ready for my adventures. And the other thing Allison asked was favorite camp meal. That's a tough one, but I suspect that my biggest go-to is quesadillas, which is nice because they're fast and easy to put together. They're there's like, you can put all kinds of different things in them. You can sometimes we make pizza quesadillas, sometimes just put some steak and cheese and onions, or something more traditional with cheese and beans and, you know, more Mexican style. So it's a dish that you can be very, very creative with, and even just based on what you have in the fridge. And they're fast and easy to put together. They're hot and satisfying, and so I think it's a great basis for a camp meal. Okay, there were also a few questions that came up on YouTube on the community page. People wondering about doing a meetup. That's something I've been thinking about for a while. Obviously, COVID ended up sort of putting the brakes on some of that stuff. I think as people are getting vaccinated and numbers are going down, that becomes less of a concern. I think probably if I do a meetup, the first meetup of any sort will certainly be exclusive to my Patreon supporters. And after seeing how that goes, I'll see if I want to do something that is more open to the general public. And I think if I do something, it would still have to be something sort of limited in size. But I really, really enjoy when I get to meet up with you guys who watch the channel. And, you know, on those occasions when I run into someone out on the trail who watches the channel, always happy to meet up with and chat with people. So that's definitely in mind. Obviously, I lost a lot of time this year with the Forester being down, and so I'm really on my heels trying to get this vehicle ready to be out on adventures and get some adventures planned and actually get out on them. And so I can't put my finger on when exactly something like that will happen, but it's been in my head for a long time, and it'll happen. It'll happen one day. Most useful mods for a beginning soft rotor. That's a great question, and without question, the most useful thing that I did on the Forester, the mod that made the most perceptible difference on the trail in terms of capability on the trail, was all-terrain tires. Just no question. That changed the personality of the Forester on the trail. I drove it out in the backcountry on all kinds of trails for about a year. Just Is it back? Okay, it looks to me like it's broadcasting. Back.
Yes, okay. Back. Read back.
How's the framing there?
That's
good.
That's fine. Yes.
Can you look up and tell people that my phone is overheated?
Our phone, his phone, overheated. I did not break anything for the person who said Lucy broke something.
Just trying to shoot on me there.
No, it's not. Overheated.
Is it working?
Yes.
Sorry about that. My phone was sitting in the sun, and I guess the stress of broadcasting the live stream plus the sun just overheated it, and it just kaput.
Yeah.
So, sorry about that. The wheels and tires that were on the Forester, left when the Forester was gone. I didn't have any spares to swap onto it, and it wasn't worth going and buying a set of wheels and tires to swap onto it just to take the other ones off. Those black Rhinos were pretty beat up, and the tires definitely had some wear, and it wasn't worth messing with. So they're gone. What is the rear camera on the truck? So I added a dash cam to the pickup, which has a screen that mounts in front of the rearview mirror, and it streams video from the rear-facing camera while at the same time recording that and recording the front-facing camera. So it functions as a dash cam, basically. It is a dash cam, and it also doubles as a video rearview mirror, which is nice because I can't see out the back through the regular mirror very well with the canopy. Instead, I've got the mirror mounted right on the back of the canopy. Not the mirror, the camera. The rear-facing camera is mounted on the back of the canopy, and so I can have a completely unobstructed view out the back. That dash cam is made by Vantop. I did purchase it. I am planning to make a quick little review video about it because I think it's an interesting device. I'm pretty happy with it so far. But I'll try and do a little review video about it because I think it's a nice option, especially if you have if you need a dash cam to record, just in case of accidents, but then also could use the benefit of having a video rear view. Okay. Oh, why is that door open? Okay. I don't know what I'm going to do about paint protection on the Frontier yet. I can't afford to pay a shop to wrap it, but I'm unlikely to try and wrap it myself. That's just not it's not the kind of thing that I'm good at. I don't deal with sheets of materials very well, so I don't know yet. For the moment, I'm avoiding narrow trails. I'm trying not to get pinstripes until I get something figured out. We'll see how that goes. Someone asked me if I thought the cab of the Frontier felt cramped, and for me, no. Compared to the Forester, it felt like this massive, spacious upgrade. I'm very comfortable in it, but I'm not a very big, tall guy, so it's a comfortable space for me. I could see perhaps if someone with a bigger frame than me might feel a little cramped. It's not as big as a full-size truck, obviously, but compared to the Forester, it feels like a palace to me. Okay, I think that was all the questions that I needed to answer up front. Do we have a way to look at the chat?
Tallest guy.
Did you see something that came up regularly? Did you notice?
No, a lot of the things I can keep answering.
Okay.
That I saw.
Okay.
Lots of people are talking about the video not focusing, but I don't think that's something that we can necessarily change. We're outside. There could
Oh,
be
the
slightly
live stream?
poor
Sorry.
connection. Live stream is always kind of glitchy, and if your Wi-Fi or internet is being weird too, it just could, yeah, not really something we can fix. Sorry.
Anything else, or can I look? So I wanted to try this outside using the phone instead of inside on my iPad. But I don't have my screen, so I can read along with what's going on. Oh, lots of questions here. How's the gas mileage? I haven't been tracking it super closely. Ultimately, it's going to be what it's going to be, right? I'm not going to fret over it because this is the vehicle that I have now. When the gas goes down, I put more gas into it. It's definitely burning more fuel than the Forester, but yeah. But I mean, it stands to reason. It's a bigger vehicle and a bigger engine. What I have noticed is that on a trip where with the Forester, I would probably expect to use about 3/4 of a tank of gas. With the Frontier, I found that on the same kind of trip, I also ended up using about 3/4 of a tank of gas. This does have a bigger gas tank than the Forester, so it's using a little bit more fuel. But all things considered, I don't know the exact numbers, and I'm not tracking it super closely because what am I going to do? This is what I'm driving for now. What was the trophy for?
Oh, I kind of talked about it in the chat, but dance competition, and the medal. But I wanted to show it off, so.
Lucie's been involved with dance for pretty much her entire life, and she does competition level dancing now, and she had a competition last night. So.
Highest scoring solo. Okay, sorry.
Okay, just chill. Since you're not gonna feel things.
Should I talk about my rings?
Yeah, I want to check out your rings.
While he's looking for questions, I will talk about.
Sure.
I have 2 rings, but everyone's good. Talk about my rings real quick. In one of our previous videos, I talked about how I'm making rings now and selling them. So if you want to get a ring, do that. Yeah. They're handmade. They're wire wrapped with a gemstone.
And how do they find them?
How do you find them? I don't know.
Go to softroadingthewest.com, click on store, scroll to the bottom, you'll find a little blurb about the rings that Lucie's making. It's a link that'll take you to basically eBay listings, and so each stone has its own eBay listing. You can pick the stone that you want, and in the checkout process, you can enter your ring size and what color, whether you want gold or silver.
Yes, I just got new wire, so you can either get gold wire or silver wire. Also, just please be aware that my ring sizer goes from size 1 to size 15. I did get some orders over size 15, and that was a little difficult. I can try to work with that, but it's difficult. Yeah, so 1 to 15. Please put your ring size in so we don't have to reach out to you. We ship in at least 3 days, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gives about 3 days to get the ring produced and packaged up and dropped in the mail.
Yeah.
Okay.
Support me. Or don't. I don't really care. Thank you though, if you do. Sorry.
Okay. Any concern with the pickup bed spreading over time with the tailgate gone? I didn't even know that was a thing. I mean, there are oodles and oodles of trucks that have been driving around for years and years and years with this kind of canopy on them. I don't know, it's not like it's putting any weight on the bed rails. It's not something that I've thought about. That's the first I've ever heard of that. When's the next trip with Primal Outdoors? If all goes well, never again. And I just say that in case Jason happens to watch this, but he won't watch it. Let's see, I don't have anything specifically planned with Jason, but sometimes we just meet up, spur of the moment. If I happen to be going his direction, or he happens to be coming my direction. So you'll certainly see us out together again in the coming months, and we are kicking around some options for another epic week-long adventure like we did last November to some new amazing place. John DZ Adventuring can help you with the wrap. Yeah, and John has actually mentioned that before. He just lives a long ways away, so it's tricky for us to cross paths. But if I could work it out, that's something that I would definitely be willing to take a look at, wrapping the truck with the help of someone who is comfortable doing it. Please pan to the left a little bit. Are we out of frame?
People are making a big fuss about the
Sunlight or the umbrella?
thing in my way. It doesn't matter.
Oh yeah.
I'm not.
No, the sun is beating down on us, so we've got a sunshade up here. What style of dance, Lucy?
All.
Can you be more specific?
Contemporary, modern, hip hop, ballet, jazz. I do other stuff. I've done other stuff, but this year those are the types I'm doing. I think. Yeah, I do more. I do a lot. It's my life.
Plans for installation. I talked about that early in the live stream, so if you missed it, just go back and watch from the beginning. I talked about that at length, actually. Considering 4x4 can get you stuck worse as a winch in your future. Yes, winch is absolutely positively near the top of my list. The first thing was I had to get this set up so that I could actually get out and camp. With that done, the next priority, well, I'm not quite there yet, but when it's done, the next priority is to get a winch on the front end. That was going to be the next thing that was going to happen on the Forester, and it'll be happening sooner than later on this truck for sure. Lucy, do you still want a Jeep?
Not necessarily. That's all I'm saying.
Grand-mère Christine.
She's here?
Bonjour, Christine.
That's my grandma. I don't know if she follows you. That's embarrassing.
Would you do a dune day with PNW Crosstrack and maybe camp out at the South Jetty? Yeah, I mean, I love getting out on the dunes. Camping out in the dunes is, I mean, you have to like make there's only specific areas that you can camp, and you have to make reservations for them. And there's lots more dunes areas up and down the coast. So, and some of them I think are a little more interesting than the ones right there at Florence. But yeah, that would be fun for sure. What was the max mileage you considered when looking at Frontiers? I was really trying to find something that was under 100,000 miles. I did end up looking at a few that were in the 100 to 120,000 mile area, but there were various reasons why each of those trucks didn't quite work out for me. This one had about 74,000 on it when I bought it, which is pretty much right where the Forester was when it got wrecked. So sort of right where I was before. Oh, I lost the. Okay, I think we'll wrap up here pretty soon. We've already been at it for 45 minutes. Awning or winch in the future. Awning, yeah, I definitely need some sort of shelter back here over my kitchen area and just to be under in inclement weather. I haven't figured out exactly what or how. I've got a few very rough sort of DIY ideas. But something will happen. I don't know what yet. I've just had my hands full with trying to just get it set up for camping, and but an awning at some point, for sure, for sure. Will I be visiting the Alvord Desert again? Oh, certainly. That southeast corner of Oregon is just amazing. Now I went to the Alvord twice last year and once the year before. I'm not in a huge hurry to go back to the Alvord because I've been there frequently over the past couple of years, and there's a lot of places that I've never been. But there's some areas near the Alvord that I haven't explored that I am really, really interested in exploring. So I'll certainly be back down there, and it's always fun. I mean, if you're passing by the Alvord, it's always fun to get out there on the playa, maybe spend the night and zip around. It's unlike anything else. Can you open, close, lock, unlock from inside the canopy? So you can. There's not a dedicated way to, or like it's not designed to be open and closed from the inside. It is possible. Can you see that? It is possible to manipulate the locking mechanism from the inside. You know, that's the way I camp out in the middle of nowhere. It's not a huge concern. I'm not likely to lock myself in. You know, I've been camping for the past year and a half in a tent which just has a zipper and no lock, so I'm not too concerned about that. It's possible to do, but and you know, I might eventually rig up something that makes it a little easier, although it's really not difficult to just manipulate it by hand. But they're not built for expecting someone to be spending time inside one of these the way I am. I think we're getting close to the end here. Rust, do I have rust problems with the Frontier? No, we tend not to have much in the way of rust in Oregon in general. They don't use salt on the roads here, and so vehicles that have been in this area for their whole lives tend to not be rusty. This one has no rust. I've never had a rust problem on any vehicle that I've owned in my entire life. Thought about putting solar cells on the roof of the canopy. Yeah, solar up on the roof may be an option at some point. Typically the way I travel, I don't have my Jackery can recharge while I drive, and I don't have a huge need for that solar input. And I think, if I was going out and planning to base camp someplace for a few days, I do have the Jackery Solar Saga portable panels that I can toss in. So it's not a huge priority, but it would probably be a nice thing to have up there at some point. And I understand that having a solar panel up there catching the sun just keeps the sun off the roof of the canopy itself, and just offers a little bit of shade in a way to the canopy. So, but that's low priority at the moment.
What?
You can't just sit there for 30 seconds.
No, someone's texting me.
Okay, so I think we're getting close to 3. I think we're about gonna wrap this up. I really apologize for the technical glitch there in the middle. Just see if I missed anything. Some big complaints about the Frontier is turning radius and gas mileage. Oh, yeah, turning radius, definitely. This is not a fun rig to turn around on a tight trail. And I mean, just impossible in some places where in the Forester, I could turn that Forester around, even if there wasn't a place to turn around, I could wiggle it around. And this is definitely more challenging. And that's one of the reasons that I definitely did not want to opt for a longer bed, even longer bed Frontier. That would have been an even more cumbersome rig to try and deal with on the narrow trails that I'm frequently on. Gas mileage, like I said before, the gas mileage, it is what it is. I feel like there was one other, reminding me of one other question I was going to answer, but it's okay. Let me get this. Okay, survive. Okay. Yeah, I think we'll call that good. We've been at it for an hour. So next weekend, I will finally get the video together, which we look at all kinds of different ways to camp in a pickup. And yeah, I've just been so busy with trying to get this put together so that I could get out on some trips here soon that I just have not been doing any video editing. I've got this, I've made a lot of advances over the past few days, and I still got the rest of the weekend to work. And then this week I'll be focusing on getting that video done. I do have trips, I have a number of trips planned in June and August, September. I'm already even looking at September, October, November for some adventures. I'm trying to still get 3 week-long adventures squeezed in this year, and so that will make some nice series of types of episodes that I think most people are more interested in seeing than me sitting around the garage. So yeah, I think we'll call it good. Thank you so much for bearing with me as we try and get back on our feet and try and get back on the trail. And we'll be getting some nice adventure videos to you guys soon. Thanks for watching, thanks for your support, and talk to you later. Now the awkward moment where I try and figure out how to stop the live stream. How do I end it?